Welcome to the Deep Dive. So today we're digging into a recent Geopolicast briefing. It's one of those quick global snapshots.
Right, covers a lot of ground quickly.
Exactly. And our aim really is to pull out the big threads, the stuff that really matters, and try to understand, well, what it all means. We've got conflicts heating up, natural disasters, some pretty major geopolitical shifts happening too.
It's quite a mix, and what's striking, I think, right off the bat, is how connected it all feels, even if the events seem separate.
Yeah. How so?
Well, take the Israel-Gaza conflict. It's intensified, tragically. We're seeing reports, at least 39 Palestinian deaths in just the last day?
Deeply concerning figures.
And those severe shortages, food, medical supplies, because of the blockade, that's not just contained there, is it? It sends ripples, affects regional stability, international relations.
It absolutely does. And then, halfway across the world, you have this awful attack in India-administered Kashmir.
The one targeting tourists.
Yeah, 26 kill. The Resistance Front, this militant group, they've apparently claimed it.
That's right.
And India's promising a strong response. How does that fit into this wider picture you mentioned?
Well, strong response in that context, it immediately raises the possibility of escalation, particularly with Pakistan.
Always a flashpoint.
Precisely. And having a group like the Resistance Front involved just underscores how complex and, frankly, volatile that region remains. A local conflict can easily spiral.
It's a stark reminder. The briefing also mentioned natural disasters, quite significant ones. Istanbul had that big earthquake.
Yeah, magnitude 6.2. Reports said it was one of the strongest they've had in years. Injuries, damage to buildings.
Events like that, what are the sort of knock-on effects beyond the immediate tragedy?
Well, obviously, the humanitarian cost is first and foremost. But in a major city like Istanbul, damage to infrastructure can have wider economic impacts.
Right, supply chains, trade.
Exactly. It affects the region, maybe even Turkey's broader economic standing, depending on the scale of the recovery needed.
And closer to home, for us in the U.S., there was that big wildfire in New Jersey.
Mandatory evacuations, lost property, a serious event.
And the briefing, interestingly, kind of linked it to these broader economic jitters, maybe a potential recession, even mentioning the Treasury Secretary trying to calm the markets.
Yeah.
That feels like a bit of a leap, connecting a local fire to, global economics.
Maybe feels like it, but that connection is becoming clearer, I think. A major disaster, even localized, strains resources.
Insurance, local businesses.
Right. It disrupts things, adds to uncertainty, especially when layered on top of other global pressures. It contributes to that overall economic anxiety.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's shift gears to diplomacy, or maybe the lack of it. The Russia-Ukraine peace talks in London. Sounded like they've hit a wall.
Yeah, stalled significantly, I think was the term. Ukraine rejected the latest proposal.
And the talks themselves got downgraded.
They did. It suggests positions are hardening, makes you worry about a prolonged conflict, unfortunately.
And then there was that explosion in Russia, Vladimir region.
A big one at an ammo dump, apparently. They declared a state of emergency there.
Just adds another layer of instability, doesn't it?
It really does. Whatever the cause, it just fuels the uncertainty. And, the fact that key international figures weren't deeply involved in earlier talks probably didn't help build momentum either.
Right. A lot of moving parts, none of them particularly encouraging on that front. And finally, the briefing marked a really significant moment, the passing of Pope Francis.
Yes, at 88. Complications from a stroke, the report said.
Funerals on Saturday, then the conclave to choose his successor. He was seen as quite a progressive figure, focused on global outreach. How big a deal is his passing on the world stage?
No, it's significant. I mean, Pope Francis has been a major moral voice and sometimes a diplomatic one on so many global issues: climate change, migration, poverty.
Yeah, very active.
So his passing leaves, a vacuum and a period of uncertainty. Who they elect next, that's going to be watched very, very closely around the world.
Why is that?
Because the successor's approach will shape not just the Catholic Church's direction, but also how it engages with international relations, social issues, all those global challenges. It matters.
So looking back at everything we've touched on there, the conflict, the disaster in Turkey, the fire here, the stalled talks, this major leadership transition in the Vatican, it really paints a picture of interconnected fragility, maybe.
I think that's a good way to put it. You see how these local incidents or specific events, they don't happen in isolation. They send ripples out.
Yeah.
Which really brings us to the final thought, something for you, the listener, to consider. How might all these different pieces, Gaza, New Jersey, the Ukraine talks, the papal transition, how might they actually be weaving together?
Hmm.
Think about those underlying connections. Are they collectively pushing the global landscape in a certain direction? What shifts might we see coming out of this confluence of events in the next few weeks or months?
Definitely something to mull over. Lots happening and lots connecting beneath the surface.
Indeed. It warrants keeping a close eye on how these threads develop.